That sounds good.
Yeah.
That looks good.
All right.
That is a lot of oil.
Where does it come? Did you put oil back in this?
Did you drain the oil? I don't think you drained the oil.
I did.
I'm pretty sure. I'm very certain you did not drain the oil out of this car. Oh yeah, that looks real drained to me. Yeah, look at that. Looks like somebody forgot.
It was drained. You put it in there to make me look bad. Why would you do that?
Is that
to
your final
floor?
answer?
That's my final.
Is that what you think actually happened? Welcome to the shop. My name is Tavarish.
I'm Jared.
And this is Wrench Every Day. Now, in the last episode, we were working on our 1990 300ZX named Earl Leaker, and we were taking out the nasty, disgusting, really slow VG30. What is it? A VG30 what?
DE.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So
If it had T's, we'd be okay, but
well, now we are putting in some T's because AT. We have a 2JZ-GTE, and this is a really good engine as far as making power and sounding great and all that stuff, except for the fact that this engine is a little bit tired and we need to do some stuff to it. But in order to do some stuff to it, we need to see if it actually fits in that car. So what are we doing today?
So we're going to do a couple things. One, there's a couple different transmission options. The one we want to go with is reusing the factory transmission. The non-turbo and turbo transmissions from the Nissan are actually pretty good. They'll handle a lot of power. They have some synchronizer issues, but they're plentiful and affordable, and we know it fits the transmission tunnel. We don't have to worry about shifter placement, transmission mounts, drive shafts. It knocks a ton of cost out for us because it all just works. The other thing is, by the time we adapt that bell housing to the back of our engine, it'll actually shift our engine forward a little bit, which it helps with our clearance issues in the engine bay. So,
but it might come at a cost because this is a tall engine, so we might run no hood, or we might run a little hood scoop inlet.
Cut a little hole.
Yeah.
Is that a cost or a benefit?
I don't know. I feel like this is already so far removed from stock that it doesn't even matter.
But obviously, you cannot just take that transmission and bolt it to this engine. It won't work.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, I've heard on the internet that there's plenty of transmissions that just bolt on. You just have to, you could drill out a few holes or something, and then boom, it's done, right?
Duct tape,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, that's how you put transmissions on.
Zeus fasteners.
Yep.
And we're good. So we actually reached out to a company we've used in the past on a super build, Collins Adapters. Mm-hmm. This is all purchased. This isn't sponsored or partnered. We bought all of these parts. They didn't really want us to use this transmission. They kept saying go 6-speed, saying we were going to have to make drive shafts anyway, and there were other problems which didn't make sense to us.
I'm thinking that maybe there was some confusion
Yeah.
on the part of my emails or something,
Yeah,
but we're just going to reuse that 5-speed, and we have the kit that we're using for the adaptation or adaption, or I don't know what the word is.
Fitment. That way you don't even have to worry about it. The first part of our kit is the actual adapter plate. And this is what will have both bolt patterns, the 2JZ bolt pattern and the Nissan transmission bolt pattern. And one thing they state is because of the conflicts of positions, we don't use all of the bolts.
Something like that.
Yeah, roundabout like that. Mm-hmm. And that shifts everything back that small distance.
What do we got there?
Ooh.
Ooh, so that is the flywheel.
So-
Custom billet piece.
Yeah, that's actually pretty sharp looking. So what you end up having happen is, again, since you're shifting everything back, you've got to extend your flywheel. And it'll have the Toyota bolt pattern, and then in the instructions it says to use the non-turbo clutches because the bell housings aren't big enough to fit the big diaphragm plate of a turbo clutch. But
you know, one of the most satisfying things is getting new parts. Look how shiny that is.
yeah, that is pretty. A replaceable steel face. So when you get an aluminum flywheel, they all are going to have a steel plate. So that way, if you burn it up, you can just change that one part out.
We're not going to be burning up anything, are we?
Oh, we are. These are the bolts that I believe that will bolt that to here, and you reuse the factory bolts to bolt the transmission to the plate. Oh.
Oh, nice.
This will be our clutch.
Yeah, so that is a 6-puck?
Yep, this is a 6-puck sprung. So when you're looking at a clutch that you're going to drive on the street, you want to find a sprung clutch. That's where these springs actually exist. And when you shock load, if you dump the clutch quickly, this hub can actually transition a little bit rather than transferring all that direct load. It makes for a nicer driving car. If you're going all in, maximum power all the time race car, and you don't mind losing all street ability, unsprung clutches are what you would want. But
so there are also different options. So you can get a dual disc clutch. I actually have that in my Supra, and you lose a little bit of drivability just in terms of sound. It actually engages really nicely. However, it's like you have this much room to from between off and on, and also it sounds horrendous. There's a lot of clutch chatter. This shouldn't have as much clutch chatter, and even though it's not a full face disc, it does have the sprung hub. So this is pretty streetable, even though I'm not sure we're going to be doing a ton of street driving on this car.
Yeah, we'll do all the street driving we can get away with. And then in here, just a clutch disc with an alignment tool. So somewhere, hopefully, we'll have a pilot bearing. Now, a couple of extra parts we do need to get. We need to use the 2006 Nissan 350Z pivot for the clutch fork and that release bearing. Those were two other parts they told us we needed to get.
So since we have to get those parts, we did order them, and we're not going to put the clutch on, but we are going to put the transmission on just to see what the fitment's like.
Yep. Oh. Well, we have the release bearing.
Okay. So maybe we just need the pivot ball.
I believe so.
So this looks like the pilot bearing, or the or is this a pilot bearing or a bushing?
Bushing. So Nissan use bushings. I prefer bearings, but you know, centered bushings work. So this is an adapter that will go and press into the back of the clutch, and it's offset, or I'm sorry, back of the crank, and it's offset to again accommodate for that movement. And inside here is a soft centered metal that the hardened steel of the transmission can ride on and float. Because anytime you have the clutch in, the input shaft's not moving, and your crank is obviously trying to move. So that's there to allow that.
So it's just a piece of metal riding on another piece of metal.
Yep. A hard metal on a soft metal.
Okay.
So, and then again, this is the release bearing. So anytime you go to push your clutch in, if this was solid, it would make a horrible noise. But it is designed, people really enjoyed the sound you made last time replicating a whine. What would this sound like if it didn't turn metal on metal?
Is that
yeah, that's going to be time-stamped. What the heck is that noise? When you push in, this bearing turns to not make horrible noises like that.
Okay.
So that's those parts. We won't be putting these in just yet, because again, our goal right now is we'll put this plate on and just mount the transmission, because this is all coming back out again.
A few times, actually.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. So let's get this trans on, and then let's see what we have to do in there. And then maybe we can just set this in the engine bay and see what we got.
Yep, that's the plan.
Okay, well that escalated quickly. We have the trans on, the adapter plate is on, but we only have like 4 bolts on here. For some reason, we couldn't get any more, but I think for our purposes, that's gonna be okay. We don't have any sort of flywheel or clutch in there. This is just for testing purposes, right?
Just for testing. One of the 7 or 8 times it'll go in and out of the hole.
All right, let's just take that out of context. So we're gonna go over here and we see that the sway bar is disconnected. The power steering lines and AC lines are deleted. And I know that we're gonna have to cut this right here for the oil pan, which is right there. So we're just gonna measure everything, kind of put it in its place, sorta, kinda, to see where it goes, and then we can make our final arrangements. And then hopefully we get this engine in the car and running and making all sorts of choo-choo and bang-bang noises, right?
Fireballs and...
Fireballs. What do you have planned for this car? So this is what happens when Jared said he drained all the oil out. What is that, Jared?
That's oil. It learned tricks from the cars you said you drained all the oil out. Apparently they're conspiring together to just leak fluid repeatedly.
I think they're talking in the middle of the night. Like, you know what's really cool? If you just leave some oil in there, so when they work on it, all the oil just comes out. We're just gonna clean that up, and okay, now it's clean.
Now we got to get a big tilt. Hopefully. Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
That looks good.
All right.
That is a lot of oil.
Where does it come? Did you put oil back in this?
Did you drain the oil? I don't think you drained the oil.
I did.
I'm pretty sure. I'm very certain you did not drain the oil out of this car.
Well, let's find some buckets.
Let's drain the oil. Yeah. Jared said he drained the oil. Look at that! Just wow. Oh yeah, that looks real drained to me. Yeah, look at that. Looks like somebody forgot.
It was drained. You put it in there to make me look bad. Why would you do that?
Is that
to
your final
floor?
answer?
That's my final.
Is that what you think actually happened?
Why would you do that to your floor? I mean, do you feel that much better making me look like I didn't drain the oil? So we reviewed the footage, and that was my one time being wrong a year. So it's a little early, but I didn't drain the oil.
That's not good for the rest of the year.
No, it's not. Well, it is. It just means it's all going to go smooth from here on out.
Oh no.
We were actually just trying. Some of you didn't feel like Earl Leaker was Earl Leaker anymore, and I subconsciously wanted to prove he is Earl Leaker.
Yeah, that's definitely earned his name. Okay, let's get this engine in. Are we stuck on something?
And a little more.
And a little more?
Yep. Okay, down a little more.
Do you have any idea how close that came to? I was right there. I was right there.
I don't know where it flew.
I don't know where it came from, Jared. I don't know where it came from. The oil was full, the coolant's full. Jared, come on.
That hose is cut. It drained in car. It's...
Where'd it come from? Magic pixies just filled this engine before we had to install it. And action.
Action.
Yes.
Earl has an engine, kind of.
Yeah, it does. So from this angle, it looks really good, but then when you come around here, it starts looking a little wonky. Can you tell us what the problem is here, Jared?
Well, we figured it would move forward some with our swap option. Most people, when they do the swaps, are custom trans to shift it way back. Our idea to make it fit easier is actually moved it way forward.
Yeah, so you have a lot of room for activities back here, but not so much room for activities up here. So this allows us, well, it doesn't allow us, it disallows us from using the radiator in the stock location. And as you can see, the pulleys are basically in where the radiator lives. So what's some solutions that we can come up with on this?
So the main one is we could move the transmission back, but we're really trying to avoid anything back there. So we're looking at the cooling options. One, the intercooler lives all the way up here, so that's not a problem. It's never going to be in the way. For the radiator, we can go to a really short, thick radiator is one thing we're looking at roughly 12 inches, and we could go to basically two 12-inch cores that'll give us the volume of a traditional radiator. We can look at doing a V-mount setup where the radiator will sit at an angle, and traditionally you would have both of the items, the intercooler and the radiator, at a V, but because of that KBD Pac-Man Z body kit, we want the intercooler flat, just filling that hole.
Yeah, it's gonna be filling that hole real good.
V-mount's gonna be tricky because you need both in a V for it to work optimum.
You need airflow, essentially, and let's say if we put a intercooler like this, and then we put a radiator like this, airflow is going to do this wonky thing. There's no airflow around here because this is just a closed panel, and we could open it up, but it sort of looks kind of crappy.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the opened upper panel. So we're most likely going to end up looking at getting two short, wide, thick boys for radiators, welding them into...
Just like us.
Yeah, short, wide. Well, I'm not short.
Just like us.
Most likely going to end up doing that and setting it up as almost like a dual pass core where it, rather than dual passing through a single radiator, it goes into one, fills, transfers to the second, comes back over, and returns to the engine. We're going to remove the factory cross beam here because one thing we're realizing, we're not going to fit a hood.
Yeah, we can fit a hood. We can, like, they make the cowl hoods, which could maybe work out, but...
You really don't want one.
I kind of, yeah, I don't want one. I feel like this needs to be shown off to the world. So this is going to be a really rowdy car. And to make it even more rowdy, you figured something out.
Yeah, the idea I had since the beginning, you've seen it now.
Yes.
And now, let me go grab something left over from the super build.
Yeah.
So, downpipe.
This is our idea pipe.
Most people would do that.
Uh-huh.
And it just go out to the back, but that's boring.
That is boring.
So I thought we would do something like this, only instead of coming up, we'll cut a hole through that rust that's already kind of there.
Uh-huh.
And it'll just come out here.
Oh, yeah. That I like that idea. I like that idea a lot.
Too. So we'll probably be able to almost use this pipe. I'll just have to extend this straight a little bit, maybe put a little scalloped end, something pretty. He kept asking why we needed this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because I thought where the exhaust came through, we can kind of cut out a nice cool little shape and have a little heat shield there.
Yeah, have like a little steampunk action going.
Yeah.
That's...
Rivet that in. So
Ooh.
That's my vision for the exhaust for Earl, because sitting at a traffic light, rev up, hit anti-lag, spit some fire out the side just at the car next to you. Why not?
Okay, all right. So this is going to be an interesting project. We still have to do motor mounts because motor mounts are, well, that's a stock motor mount for the 2JZ, and that's a stock motor mount for the 300ZX, and there's a little bit of a delta between them, but it shouldn't be that bad.
Yeah, so I think our plan for the next episode is build this, turn this section into removable, because it's a very interesting dance getting it into the hole.
Yeah, and if we take this out, this will be a literal slide in.
It'll just loop right in a minute versus like 20 minutes of wiggle, pull, twist, hope,
scream, cry.
And then we'll try to get our motor mounts made up so that way it'll actually drop in and stay permanent. And then we'll kind of see where we go from there. I guess we'll start working towards rust, getting exhaust, wiring.
And then the first startup, and then the first choo-choo, and then the first drive, and then we'll be done.
Yeah, done. Then we'll be sliding like pros.
Sliding like pro. Are you a pro at sliding?
I'm more of a gripper than a slipper. So...
Okay.
You know, I feel pretty...
You hear that, ladies? Also, another thing that we have to do is the sway bar, because the sway bar will... Well... Not a ton of room, so...
and we need to notch the radiator support because...
It's almost like this engine is not made for this car.
Yeah, who would have thought fitting a super engine in a 300Z would have some complications, but...
Well, the driveline is good. Transmission is good.
Yeah, at least firewall back to the differential. That all fits. That's perfect.
Okay, so until next time, we're gonna just be working on this thing. How do we end these? I think, you know what? I think we should have a stock like end sort of thing.
A
so
consistent one?
Yeah, consistent one, because I don't want to put you on the spot, and I feel like we need to have a slogan for this. And what I like is what you said a while ago. And that is make questionable
choices.
Yes.
Well, I figured today's was going to be double check your work.
Double check your work.
Just if you thought you would drain the oil.
Yes. Okay, so
make questionable decisions and double check your work.
And double check your work. That's right. Bye-bye, everyone.